Hey everybody, so hopefully you can hear me. I know I'm sitting out on my patio and letting the sun, the morning sun hit my face, and it feels real good out here. But I wanted to share something I was actually sharing with ISI ladies this morning about God being our source. Is definitely something that the Lord has been speaking over and over again to me over the last few weeks, and just realizing that it's not just something that we say, but over the course of our lives, we, especially growing up in the church and all of that stuff, and just being a Christian, we hear, God is my source. God is my source. He's the source of my strength. He's the source of all of this stuff. Well, lately, he has been trying to really emphasize the fact that, no, you don't understand. I am your source. So now let's jump over to a few clips that I shared with the ISI group this morning. Enjoy. Good morning, ladies. Happy Wednesday morning. So this morning, I just wanted to share something with you guys that I came across this morning, of course. But anyway, it just was a confirmation and just even more of what God is doing. But for me, I know that one of the things that God has been really opening up is just giving more revelation about how he is our source. Like, he is literally our source. And this is something that we've known and we've said, just over the course of our lives. But he really began to break it down. Like, no, you don't understand. I am your source of everything. And so anything that we can imagine that we actually look to other things thinking that they're our source. One common thing that we'll say is, oh, I have my job, but God is my source. It doesn't matter what my job is. The source of my provision still comes from God. But then he began to expand that to everything, to our strength, to our relationships, to everything, like anything that you can think of. And so he's invited me to actually explore that. And so I came across this video this morning with Liz Wright and her friend Kim, and they were just sharing. It wasn't that long, but they were just sharing about, she also got the same revelation, and that God was saying that he is our source. And I feel like he's saying that over and over again. One thing that I've heard recently from a lady that from a video that Barbara shared with me, this lady was saying, God is saying the same things. It's just that, he's saying it to all of his children, and we can either receive it or not. And so when he brings these things down, it's just like, I heard that. I heard that too. Do you heard that? And so God is really emphasizing right now that we need to understand that he is our source, and that he is I don't even know how to break that down more. So anyway, I'm going to share the video. Even there are times when, in one of the examples that they said, there are times when we feel like, oh, you can see in the spirit, or you can hear God, or you can do these things, or you have the gift of prophecy, or you have the gift of healing and all of this stuff. And we have to realize that those are limiting beliefs in us. We should never be limited, because he is our source. I don't know. Oh God, this is getting funny because I don't know how else to say this, because it all comes from him. So anything that somebody else can do, we can do. And if we can believe that, it unlocks it for us. You see what I'm saying? So it causes us to come past those barriers that we normally have about, I can do this or I can't do this and all of this stuff, when he is actually unlimited. I had an experience with him this morning. I'll just share real quick, where I entered into him. I not only ascended into heaven to be embraced by the Father, but then entered into him. And with me, I had I call it my scroll of declarations, but I actually I've written out all of the things that I have influence over, which would be my mountains, basically. Areas of influence, whether it's my family, businesses, relationships, whatever. And that's all of those things listed on the side. And then out from that, I have all of the situations that deal with each of those areas, right? So I've written down everything I could possibly think of, whether it was my marriage or friendships or my financial situations or projects that we're working on or whatever. All of those situations are listed out and they branch from these areas of influence. And so I've written this out and I took that into God with me. And because of the fact that I took it into God, now not only am I saturated with his presence, but my situations are. And from that place, I began to prophesy over those things. And it wasn't so much of like saying, this is going to happen or that's going to happen. It was because you are now in God. I have surrendered these things. Not only have I brought it to God, but I've brought it into God. And so now it's covered and now you have life. And I began to breathe the breath of life because as I was doing this, I feel like I was getting instruction from Jesus about all of the things that he's told me in the past and how the power of the breath of life is so important. And so I began to blow breath. And as I was doing that, it brought back Ezekiel and how he told him to prophesy over the dry bones and that they live. And things started connecting. Even though the bones were separated, they started to connect. And so I felt like as I was doing that, every resource, every provision, everything, was beginning to connect. Then I saw a seed. I saw the seed of life beginning to be planted in the soil of the situations. And so it was kind of like stepping into what God was doing during creation when he began to, when he created things. I began to envision sowing seeds of life into each of the situations until they began to become fruit-bearing trees. And so the fruit of those situations, the fruit that came out of it also has seed, and it's going to continue and it's going to continue. And so part of the revelation I got yesterday from watching this video from Kirby Denero, whatever his last name is God rested when he knew that things would begin to produce on its own. That's when he rested. And so you can it's kind of like building an automation system. Once you build, you're working to build the automation system. But once you're done and it begins to work on its own, you can rest. So it's kind of like that. And so I saw, this is how he revealed to me how 1,000 things can get done at the same time, because the seeds that I've planted in prophesying to these things and speaking over it and bringing it into God and bringing life into it began to bear fruit. And then the fruit of it began to bear seed, and it just continued and continued. So it wasn't something I had to physically work at. It's going to bear its fruit on its own. It's going to have its own resources. It's going to have its own people. It's going to have its own money. It's going to have its own, things like that. So that was really good. That was my experience this morning. And I just realized that it was within God that all of these things are possible. So I stepped into God. And then after that, I began to journal. And he told me, I want you to stay here. I want you to live from this place. Yes, you can do all of this. I did other things in my encounter with him. But as far as remaining in this place, I truly believe that he wants me to begin to explore what it means to him being our source, from physical stuff, body healing, even how we think about exercise, how we think about dieting, how we think about everything. Even after that, I was contemplating this whole thing about health, and I'm not going to go far into that, but he reminded me of the scripture that says the same spirit that lives within Jesus is the same spirit that that brings life to your mortal body. So I'm meditating on this because I'm just like, Lord, how is it that I know how life is, in heaven and all of that, and we want heaven to be on earth and all of this. So you can see I'm meditating. He's giving me something. I'm getting ready to get into that. I don't have full understanding yet, but it's coming, about how he can be our source for our mortal bodies, for our health, for our, all of this stuff, for our mental capacity, for our soul and our spirit, for, just being able to carry the glory of God and all of this stuff. So I'm going to keep it and stop it right there. Those are my thoughts this morning, and I just wanted to share that with you guys. Hopefully it brings some type of encouragement. Anyway, I just want to encourage you guys to begin to think about or to explore the Father. Ask the Holy Spirit to begin to reveal to you what that looks like. How is it that he can be your source in this situation or in that situation? Ask him what does he want to do in this situation, and try to look at things that are around you, not with natural eyes, but ask for his spiritual perspective, that you can enter into him and see things the way he sees them. And you'd be surprised what you see, because one thing that I've learned is that the things that we call bad may not necessarily be bad. They may be the thing that he's working something out of you, or the things that you call good may not be good. Only God sees the conditions of the heart. He sees the purpose of a matter or of a situation. So it's crucial sometimes to actually look through the eyes of the Father and get his perspective on things, and that's why we need to spend time with him. But anyway, he is our source, and this is something I'm still exploring with him in different areas of my life, and I encourage you to do the same. So you guys be blessed, and hopefully this was encouragement to you to think a little bit differently about the things that are going on, because the Lord is your source. All right, take care. Bye.